We need an intro. We're on early bird right now. By the time you're watching this, it's still time for Save Our Sites. It's in San Diego. There's only 80 rooms left. By the time you're watching this, there's probably only 50 rooms left. People in the comments been saying SeaWorld Wild Animal Park is nice, guys. Listen, I love animal, I love Shamu, but I'm in my mid 40s and we're trying to grow a site network. I'm not gonna watch a penguin crawl on his stomach before I learn how to make more money for my site. I got my priority. Call me old fashioned, but to go watch a giraffe eat from a tree, like, we need to start making some real money. We're in the golden era. You know, Shamu can backflip later. Walrus can backflip. First of all, the SeaWorld, don't even get me started on that. They watch the documentary, but the Wild Animal Park too. We'll watch those animals later. We need to watch ourselves first. So go to saveoursites.com, go to the panels, learn something for your site. And this video is for the CRAs who are thinking of becoming site owners. And then yes, go watch penguin crawling on their stomach later. We got some YouTube inspo. And as you've seen from the intro, right, I'm very passionate about Save Our Sites. Not only because it's my conference, obviously I better be passionate about my own business, but there's so many, like, the entrepreneurial spirit right now in our industry is palpable. And like you're seeing a lot of things happening over the last few years. So you saw a bunch of layoffs, CROs at scale laying people off, sponsors at scale, sites not so much. And then you see a lot of these people gravitate towards other roles if they get lucky, or if they're persistent, or if they're extremely experienced. Or you see a lot of people going the entrepreneurial route. And if you come to SOS, I mean, you're going to be surrounded by your fellow entrepreneurs. And I know a lot of you CRAs watching, because this is for how to go from CRA to site owner. This is for you. So it's not an uncharted path, because many have done this already. Many CRAs have become site owners. And the new type of CRAs that exist today in a post risk-based monitoring world are CRAs with high emotional intelligence. So this was completely unplanned today. I'm not even wearing the Yuma Clinical Trials uniform. I just showed up at the site. I had to move a big piece of equipment with my business partner, Jaime, from one place to another. And then our CRC says, oh yeah, one of our CRAs is coming in, but she's actually one of these site liaisons. She used to be a CRA. Now she's a site liaison for a sponsor. And she's here to discuss how we can recruit better for the study that she's on. And then when I was there meeting with her, we talked a little bit about business. And then I let her know, well, we have more than just the PI that you're here for. We have a whole slew of PIs. And let me tell you about this, and that. And we really want to work with your company. Besides the one study that we have with one PI. And so she put me in touch with the medical science liaison. But this is a high EQ CRA. And she could be a site owner. We didn't discuss site ownership. We discussed our site, Yuma Clinical Trials. But if you are a CRA that visits sites, you probably land in two categories, and you might fluctuate between the two. You might be intimidated, like when you go to an academic medical center. You might think, wow, how can I can't even dream of having a research clinic if this is what they look like. And then you go to another place, maybe similar to Yuma Clinical Trials, or just think of a regular private practice. And you say to yourself, well, this is actually seems like something I can do. Who's the site director? Who's the site owner? And then you get curious. And after a while of site visits, it's natural for a lot of CRAs to think, I wonder how I would do. And it takes the right kind of personality, because there's not a fixed income in site ownership. You're going from a salaried worker who is told exactly what to do, and maybe you're given some degree of autonomy within your workflow, but you basically have deliverables to the sponsor, and you need outcomes from your sites. And so you, in exchange for that, they don't even count your hours. So you're expected to work like 60 hours a week to basically account for the traveling and all those late night emails. And I know some CRAs email us like midnight. We just had a CRA that was emailing our staff at midnight. These people are salary based. Like, they don't have hours, they have salary. Now, it's hard to go from that, where you have autonomy and you make your own schedule, but then you have deliverables, to, but you have a fixed income, to you're on your own now as a site owner. And there's not a lot of barriers to entry in starting a site. The biggest barrier to entry is that first year of having the site, paying your own bills. Forget the company's bills. There's, this step-by-step blueprint's going to show you how to do it bootstrapped. But I'm just talking about to pay your own personal bills. So there's two routes that CRAs become site owners. One is, let's burn the boats philosophy. I'm going to quit my job because I already found a PI and I don't want to focus. I just hate my job and I want to do this, site ownership. The other is probably more frequently utilized, and it's, I need to do both. Like, I'm going to run this site on the side while keeping my job and maybe hiring an assistant for my site until I have proof of concept that it's going to be successful, at which point I will quit my CRA job. And that proof of concept usually comes after one study where they're enrolling enough patients to not only pay the bills but have a profit. So either one's fine. I mean, good enough is the enemy of great, and I think CRAs get paid good enough, so it keeps the majority of you guys and gals with golden handcuffs at your job. But I'm telling you, as a site owner who has had to make a living out of this, out of eating what I catch for the last 21 years, it's worth it. Like, yes, there's some definite struggles. There's some definite stressors, especially earlier on in my career. Like, I didn't know where I was going to pay the bills from. It was pretty tough. I even had a stint in between a few sites where I was a contract CRA because I needed the extra money to pay my taxes and to pay random bills. But just know that you can always go back to being a CRA. But you're going to kick yourself when you're old, in your 80s or 90s. You don't want to have a regret that I could have done this. I could have went out and did business on my own, but I didn't. You don't want to have that regret. Now, site ownership's not for everyone, and it's certainly not for every CRA. But if you're a CRA that has the skill set of being influential amongst your peers and especially amongst your sites, so getting your coordinators to do what you need them to do, that's a skill set. That's salesmanship. That's influence. There's another skill set of, which most CRAs already have, of being organized and knowing what's important, like how to prioritize. Now, this part may be different because you may know how to prioritize based on a sponsor's priorities, but when you're a site owner, sometimes those priorities don't line up, and your priorities are going to be keeping your business alive, number one, and expanding your business and growing your business. Because if your business is not growing, it's what? It's dying. And you don't want that to happen. So I'm always looking for growth. Stagnant waters get moldy. I'm always encouraging my staff. I don't care if there's no patient visits today. You guys need to pre-screen. You guys better find someone. The day is still young. You can bring someone in and screen them. I just want to see activity. And I think we have enough studies now to where we shouldn't have any days where we don't have any patients. We now have 5 staff members that are full-time. Soon to be 6. So yeah, the days of like just having slow days hopefully are behind us. This year, most sites that I know in 2025 had a worse year than 2024. There was a lot of, with an election year, there was a lot of pauses and hiatuses at the beginning of this year. That's all getting squared away. By the time you're watching this, I think the Federal Reserve will have cut interest rates and gets the money flowing back into the biotech space and sponsors, and you're going to see mergers and acquisitions and more studies, hopefully. We have a lot of tailwinds as far as workflow efficiencies with AI and things like that, which we've discussed before. So the point of all this is it's not a bad time to get into site ownership. I think we have a solid 10 years, maybe 15 years before there's massive consolidation at the site level. But that's enough time to have a very good exit if you want to build a business. And so, what is a good transferable skill sets for CRAs? Like I said, it's influence, it's salesmanship, it's being organized, and it's understanding the fundamentals. You already know the fundamentals. But now you're going to learn all the exceptions. Okay, and you're going to learn how to manage sponsor expectations from your PI expectations. And keep in mind that this is not just a career change. I understand. It's a entrepreneurial leap. It's a paradigm shift. It's a order of magnitude of a difference. And if you're successful, it's an order of magnitude of a difference in your financial rewards. And if you're not successful, I think it's an order of magnitude in the financial disparities that you're going to experience, which is why a lot of CRAs don't just quit their job. They try to do a site on the side. And I'm not an attorney. You need to check your own employment agreement. I have no idea what it says. Consult with an attorney. I think Darshan Kulkarni is not a bad one. He's a friend of the show. But it's possible. And we've had me and Chris in our consulting services, because we help sites get studies, negotiate their budgets, create their source. We help new sites. We help experienced sites for a low monthly rate. We've had many CRAs turned site owners. And because of things like eSource, shout out to CREO, they're a sponsor of this podcast, you're able to manage your staff while you're on the road. So let's say you don't want to quit your job as a CRA. You can hire a coordinator. You can train them. Hire an assistant and train them to be a coordinator. And start off slowly. Teach them, hey, we got a new study. These are startup regulatory docs. Here's how you complete them. Here's where you upload them. When the patient comes in for their first visit, since we created the source together, you got to go through and do these assessments and make sure the PI does this and the sub-PI does this. And you're going to be, even though you're working, maybe traveling, you can still look at the source when you have time. You can check in on how that visit went. And you can give notes to your staff in real time. You can text them. I mean, you can communicate and you can have oversight over your site without necessarily quitting your job. Do I think that's ideal? No. Do I think that's ethical? I don't know. I'm not a arbiter of morality. I think everyone needs to make that decision on their own. There's plenty of people that have gone that route and been successful. There's also plenty of people who have gone that route that have not been successful. And then same thing with just quitting your job and doing the site right away. Now, please do not quit your job until you find a PI that has agreed to do studies with you. I would work out an agreement with them where they are a contractor for your site unless they want to be a business partner. If they want to be a business partner, just make sure you know them well enough, because there's no easy way to get out of that a business with someone if you're both in the LLC. So I would recommend setting them up as an independent contractor, giving them 20 to 30% of the gross study revenues. Yes, all of it, like even the startup fee. I know they didn't do anything, but you wouldn't have that study if it wasn't for their name. And they probably had to meet with the monitor for the site selection and the site initiation. They probably had to do some trainings. So they deserve, in my opinion, even the study startup fees. Now, until you get a PI and you have an agreement, even a handshake agreement, with all my PIs currently, I don't have anything on paper unless we made an LLC. And with 3 of them, we made LLCs. And with another one, it's a contractor. They're all handshake agreements. Now, you can just have an attorney draft up a independent contractor agreement, or you can just have an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, that you can make with Google Gemini or Grok or whatever you want to use, and just put in, we're gonna get you will get paid 20% of the gross of all study activities in exchange for being PI. Once they agree to that, I would probably start applying for studies. I still wouldn't quit my job. There's no need to quit your job yet. You can apply for studies. You go on clinicaltrials.gov. You go to saveoursites.com. You go to the Save Our Sites regional meetups, which are free. We have one in Houston coming up in December. Basically, you network with people. You try to find a study for your site. You are a CRA. You probably already have colleagues. You probably already visit sites. I'm not going to connect the dots there, but you have plenty of people you can network with already. So, once you have a study that they send you a survey, and you do the survey. Now, this is where you're probably going to need to contact me and Chris for our services. We'll help you do those surveys, because initially your PI is not going to have experience, but there's ways to answer these surveys to still get around that. If you get a site selection visit scheduled, you can consider the study is almost guarantee. The only thing that can throw a curveball is if you just do a horrible job at your site selection visit, which as a CRA, I don't think you will, because you've been on the other side of that. I'm presuming as a CRA, you've done site selection visits yourself, so you should know what you would want to see at a site selection visit and what your site is missing that you can fix prior to the SSV. Or you could lose the study because the sponsor decides not to do the study at the last minute, which just happened to me last week, and it sucks because it's a study. It's a study that is our bread and butter, and unfortunately, that study's not happening, and I had to pay vendors to do their trainings. It's a long story, but we had a SAV, so we already got paid the startup fees, and then I'm gonna invoice them the closeout fees because it's all in the contract. And I'm even going to get some pass-throughs in there as far as the trainings that my vendors are having them do. But point is, this is the time where it's okay to consider quitting your job, because you have a site selection visit and went well. Now, you technically don't need to quit your job yet until site initiation visit. I think site initiation visit is the benchmark for when I would feel comfortable if I were in your shoes as a CRA to quit my job. Um, you also don't want to stay in business long enough as a CRA to where eventually somebody from your organization is going to come do a site selection visit. Like, it's going to get awkward. So once you have that site initiation visit, I think it's time to quit your job. And now you focus on that study like it is your only revenue stream, because it effectively is. So if you enroll in the average study, I know they're all different, but the average study is basically, let's say 20 visits, 15 visits, let's call it, and $1,500 a visit. So if you enroll 10 patients, if you randomize 10 patients in that study, you've replaced your salary as a CRA, provided that you only have like you and an assistant and that you are not paying rent somewhere. And that's another thing. This PI that you came to an agreement with, I would do whatever I can to work for free out of their office. I don't care if it's not enough space. You share the space until you get this revenue going from your first study. And then if it's really hard to do studies at that site because there's not enough space, then you go out and lease a place nearby, ideally in the same building. But if not, just try to make it really easy for the PI. That's exactly what we did at Yuma Clinical Trials. Although our site, the space in the doctor's office was not that bad, we were able to be in there for a year before we moved to our own space. Also, within that first year, it's getting more studies. And now I know you're limited because you only have you and maybe an assistant. As soon as you get that second study, I would hire another assistant, because that ideally your first assistant's almost ready to be a coordinator of their own after like 6 months. That second one, you need to start grooming them the same way you groom the first one. So you're going to get good at hiring talent and training talent. I would not hire an already experienced coordinator because they're expensive, and you're bootstrapping it, and you're actually going to be there on site. So that's how I would bootstrap it until I get my first study. And then what I would do beyond my first study is I would try to get a second study. I would try to, as soon as I get a second study, I would hire my second staff member. And then I would do anything I can to constantly be adding new PIs to my site. And you start with your existing PI. Hey, doc, do you know any cardiologists? I mean, this is literally how it worked with us. Dr. Smith, he's my business partner now, so he has incentives to help me. But even when he wasn't, I would ask him, do you have a dermatologist? Yes. We have Dr. Harris. Go talk to him. Hey, Dr. Smith, what about pulmonologist? Yes. We have Dr. Shaw. Hey, what about cardiologist? Oh, yeah, I work out with Dr. Faceja. So that's how it worked for us. Like, to the point where I don't even ask our specialists if they know, and I should be doing this. But we're expanding it also in slightly other geographic areas. So we're looking to expand our footprint with other specialists, like multiple specialists at once. I'm trying to work with a health system in San Luis, Arizona. But like, I could be doing a better job of this too. I kind of know the specialist in Yuma. We just got a nephrologist we're trying to get a study for. So we kind of know like what's available and what's not, because it's a small enough town. But if it was a bigger town, I would have to be reaching out to my specialists and my other doctors constantly and doing biz dev on my own, constantly getting out in the community. So that's exactly what I'd be doing if I were you. This is how you bootstrap it. Forget about grants, loans. I don't want these words to even come, like, not even to waste your time. Grants, forget about it. All right, unless you already know for sure you can get one somehow. Most of the time, from my experiences, and not just me, but other people I've worked with, grants take a shitload of time, a lot of work. I had one where they wanted you to put it on 90% recycled paper and all these, they had all these crazy criteria. And then they don't even look at your application. I mean, it took me like 30 hours to do this, and then they don't even look at it. So you're wasting your time. I'd rather you spend 30 hours going out in the community and finding more PIs, finding more referral sources for the studies you do have, finding more potential staff that can join your team, because that will be the rate determining step at some point, is the staff that you have. And finding more studies and going to more conferences like SOS. That's what I would be. Not grants, not loans. You don't want to get in debt, and you don't want to rely on anyone. You can do this yourself. You can bootstrap this yourself. If you're going to go the bootstrap route, the only funds you need to worry about are your own personal expenses for about a year. Because I think within a year, certainly within 2 years, you should be able to replace your CRA salary with your site. And then after that, the sky's the limit, right? Like, there is no limit. And that's what I like about being in business, is you are not, unlike what you're doing as a CRA, you're effectively trading your time for money. And time is limited, so it's like a bad deal. Like, spoiler alert, that's a losing strategy long term because it's not scalable. This, owning your own business, is scalable because you get paid for the outputs you produce, not your time. And the outputs you produce are systems you build with the people that you bring in, and there's no limit to that. And I mean, I haven't reached anywhere near our potential that we have with Yuma Clinical Trials. But we bootstrapped it. I never went into debt for this site. It's been relatively predictable. It hasn't been without its challenges. It hasn't been without its frustrations. This year was very trying for me and my business partners. We have had like 6 months of relatively low activity, but we've continued to invest in our staff, hire more, trust the process, add new specialists, continue to add new studies. Just know that some studies are going to disappoint. Other studies will never materialize. Never rely on any one thing. Be diverse, be patient, trust the process, and you're going to do good. And then it's a matter of just funding your own vision, which means bootstrap it. Hopefully you have some savings that you can pay your own bills. I don't want you going in debt for your site. Don't do that. Don't take out loans. Forget about grants. You can do this on your own. You just need one study, and then when that study gets activated, you just need to randomize patients. That's it. And nothing crazy, like 8 to 10 patients. That's it. That's 6 figures right there if you do it right, to where you can start hiring people and repeating this process and training people in the process. So that's assembling your dream team. You're going to need to train your own coordinators. You're going to need to train them on everything: regulatory, patient recruitment, business development. I have one of my newer coordinators right now. I put her in charge of business development because she's very reliable. If I tell her to do something, she does it, and it's very little training needed to try to get new studies for the site. So I put her on Inato. Shout out to Inato, another sponsor of this podcast. It's a portal where you can get studies for your site for free. I don't have time to be on there, but she is. And I know I can trust her on that. I have another coordinator we're training. She's on Patient Ace, which is she's like an admin for us now. Patient Ace, reach out to me if you're interested. It helps sites get studies or get patients for their studies. It's very low cost. Links are underneath this video or in the show notes if you're interested, or just reach out to me. Happy to make an introduction with Ronick, my business partner, who's the founder, but I am a part owner of that, and we use it at UMA Clinical Trials. So I have one of my newer staff on that, my other newer staff on Inato and BizDev, and they're both also helping and shadowing the more experienced coordinators on the studies they have, and they're doing all the stuff like data entry and processing blood and getting doctors to sign stuff. Little by little, they're learning stuff. So by 6 to 9 months out, they could probably do their own study visit on their own. And that's the goal. And that's how you get a dream team. And then it's a matter of keeping that culture alive, building a culture of excellence. And this is something where one of my, I guess, the downside of my style is I'm very laid back. I don't get too worried about things. But sometimes you can breed a culture of complacency. I've never had coordinators like purposely screen fail people, thank God. I've also never had coordinators that did not want to bring people into screen. My staff, they like patient activity. They love that, actually. It's their favorite part of their job. So I don't need to worry about that. But what I do need to worry about is like the upkeep. Like, hey, did you respond to all the leads? Did you answer all the queries? Like those kind of things. You have to reinforce that positive reinforcement on building this culture of excellence. And there's a good book written by the 49er legendary coach Bill Walsh. The score takes care of itself. And in that book, he talks about culture. And he talks about how he took over the 49ers when they were the worst team in the league. And by the time he was done, they were the model franchise. And they still are for the rest of the league. I'm a proud Niners fan. But that book is a must read for anyone building a small business. He talks about everything from how the players show up to practice, to how the receptionists answer the phones. I mean, you really want to build a culture of excellence, and as soon as you see something that you don't like that's not part of that culture, the buck stops with you as the owner. You got to correct it. And so that's probably my weakness, is like I'm not on that kind of stuff enough. But I think we have enough strengths to where we can overcome those weaknesses, and we can still work on building those things. It's a work in progress. We're only 4.5 years old. So we then want retention for the staff, and you're going to get that. And we want positive outcomes, and you're going to get internal conflicts, and you need HR. My wife's been very helpful with that. She's really good at that. She was HR in her last job, and my business partner Jaime is also good at those kind of things as well. Although he's a clinician, so his strengths are on the patient safety side. And then, look, if you get to year 2, year 3, you've got a few specialists, you've got a few studies going on at any given time. It's going to sound bad to say this, but you want to protect your downside as much as possible. So for you, let's bring it home for the CRAs. For you, you quit your job as a CRA. You've been doing this for 2 years. You finally started paying yourself. You got, maybe by now, you've got 3 or 4 staff members and 3 or 4 PIs, and you probably have 5 studies going on at any given time. You know that you can control your expenditures. If you suddenly lose half of your studies and you don't see any way of getting those studies back anytime soon, you're going to have to lay off some staff. But you are the last person you're going to lay off. Like, you, at the end of the day, this is your business. You're protecting your downside, right? And like we have, myself and Jaime, we have other businesses going on too. So we actually can, instead of laying off staff, we just don't pay ourselves. We might actually come across our first quarter, since we've started paying ourselves a dividend, where we don't pay ourselves a dividend as the owners. And that's the luxury we have, because we do have other streams of revenue from other businesses we do. Now, if I didn't, I would have had to let go some staff, and we wouldn't have missed our dividend, right? So it's a matter of levers that you can pull. And I think there's some hope that we won't actually forego a dividend this quarter because we've had some unexpected studies closing and we have some closeout fees and things like that. So this is why it's important to negotiate your budget well. Contact me and Chris. Let us help you. But you're going to get to year 3, year 4, like we are right now, year 4, where, okay, I have this site. I have like enough PIs here. How do I expand? Can I get more therapeutic areas here? If the answer is yes, then expand locally with that. If the answer is no, I've maximized kind of the specialists that realistically I could work with. You might want to start thinking about expanding geographically. And this is called scaling your business and building your own research empire that's sustainable. And we are actually doing both. We are adding a few more specialists here in Yuma, probably 3 or 4 more, depending on oncology, and in the greater Yuma region, so it includes San Luis, Arizona. But after this, we're thinking of doing this in another state, and we might also do it in another city in Arizona, like 3 hours away, but we might want to do this in another state and basically find the same potential raw ingredients, but then use our structure that we've already had and the staff we've already trained to, some of them might have to travel, and I've already talked to them, they're willing to do that and train and get that site up and off the ground. And that you just go from there. But at the end of the day, you're protecting your downside. Never lose focus of that. Never lose sight of where you came from. If you quit your job and you know what you can make as a CRA, that should be your floor for what you pay yourself as a site owner. After year 2, you have to give yourself some realistic time to let the business do what it's got to do. But after that, all the levers are in your control. So hopefully this was inspirational. Hopefully somebody's watching this or listening and is going to take the leap. Let me know if you need help. We can help you, myself and Chris. We're here to guide you. SaveOurSites.com, Patient Ace, and my sponsors, Creo and Inato. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Talk to you soon. Go get yourself a ticket at SaveOurSites.com. Bye-bye. Hey, if you guys like that kind of content, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Stay tuned for more videos.